Hey, good morning. Mike Shea in Lakeland, Florida. It is a beautiful 70 degrees. And I want to talk about non disclosures, buyer profiles, financial statements, and why brokers want it. And a little bit of a check on the reality as a buyer, what you're navigating. So, when I first got into business 20 years ago, I was pretty adamant that, you know, people don't give out tax returns and bank statements and even back then buyers had some expectation that they're not showing theirs until the buyer should just give us everything before we make an offer, or how do I make an offer without knowing what I'm looking at. And there was some legitimacy to the current concern that there were brokers who weren't presenting data correctly, etc. And they didn't want to have their time wasted. So let's talk about that. Buyers need to understand they exist in a marketplace and that they compete with everybody else. Because when there's a good business and they get outbid, they're going to be upset that they were competing. And how you act as a buyer, from the minute you make contact to the minute you close, is judged. Now, you may not like that, but being rude to a broker, whether they deserve it or not, or refusing to give a simple profile on your capability to buy, is not going to win you anything. Because the one mechanism that's controlling the transaction is the broker, and the broker has an obligation to protect the data of the seller. Now, admittedly, there are brokers who just, hey, you make an inquiry, they give you the kitchen sink. I'm kind of in the middle ground, depending upon the transaction and what the seller wants. There's certain information I will release and certain information that I will not release. And I would encourage buyers to look up the broker's profile to understand their experience and their knowledge, and how long they've been in the business. Because one I just got was, I'm a serious buyer. When I look at their profile in our internal CRM, they have talked to 97 brokers. 97. So you're not a serious buyer. You're a tire kicker at that point. And in the age of the internet, we have the ability to have that visibility on you with regard to your seriousness of the process. Now, do buyers get frustrated that brokers misrepresent data? Yes. Do buyers get frustrated because the brokers sometimes don't understand financials? But that's why I'm asking you to look up the profile of the broker to judge whether they know what they're doing or not, based upon their work history and reputation. Be serious. Do that work, because we're doing that work, hopefully, on you to make sure you're serious about wasting the broker's time, but more importantly, wasting the seller's time. Today, it's a normal Thursday morning. I've gotten 3 inquiries, and all 3 buyers have asked for bank statements, tax returns, and P&Ls. And all 3 buyers have been sent books by me. An initial inquiry, I sent them an ebook about how it works in Florida and what to expect, what the forms, and what you will and will not get. And yet, follow-on email, they just ignored the email of information, and they're asking for bank statements on a business, and they haven't made offer 1. So, again, what impression does that make on the broker? Well, it sends a message to the broker that they're not respected. It sends a message to the broker that the buyer is not serious with regard to reading the information about the rules of the game in Florida, or they're taking advice of somebody else. So, for example, their attorney, an immigration attorney in some country, is telling them, I need this before you make an offer. Well, A, you're not getting it. B, the attorney needs to stay inside their lane, which is, if they're an immigration attorney, stay in the immigration world. And C, if you're not in Florida, you're not an attorney, because guess what? Each state has a bar. But respect the brokers, respect the sellers, understand the norms of behavior in the marketplace, because it's not going to change for you. You're one of thousands, literally thousands. And demanding things is not going to get you what you want. And there's a safe way to navigate the buying process without getting that information up front. The broker has visibility on it. If you've respected the broker and you ask the broker, hey, does the other broker who's representing the deal, do they tend to be good stewards of the data that they have? Do their numbers tend to stand up in terms of the recasting? And follow that process. There will be a time, specifically in due diligence, that you will get bank statements and you will get tax returns, but you're not getting that stuff beforehand, at least not from a trans-world broker. So be aware of that and act accordingly. There are times where you'll get varying degrees of information released, but many times the data will be redacted if we're not in contract. EINs, social security numbers, data like that. But you're certainly not getting somebody's bank statements prior to an offer and prior to a deposit. Now, sometimes private equity folks get away with these IOI, LOI, then an APA nonsense. I have an opinion about that. I think they should behave as just as much as anybody, just like everybody else, but they have more money and there's fewer of them capable of buying these types of those large businesses. So, but you still got to withhold and protect data. I mean, we're in a phase right now, there's certain information they're not getting until after the closing, period, the end, and they need to get past it. You're not getting customer lists. You're not getting proprietary data. You're not getting trade secrets. None of that stuff is going to get given over until the closing. So look, buyers and sellers need to act in good faith. Brokers have a responsibility to both parties to represent. I'm sorry there are bad actors, but getting frustrated isn't going to help you. So that's my lesson for the day. I hope it's helpful. I'd be interested to hear in the comments everybody's opinions.